More rewards, more savings. With American Express Business Gold, earn up to $395 back in annual statement credits on eligible purchases at select shipping, food delivery, and retail subscription merchants. Enjoy the benefits of membership with the Amex Business Gold Card. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold Card. Built for business by American Express.
At Sierra, discover top workout gear at incredible prices, which might lead to another discovery. Your headphones haven't been connected this whole time. Awkward. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
It's time for basketball, and Uber Eats is dropping deals on game day favorites to keep you locked in on the action. Like when you're craving a buzzer beater, but also buffalo wings. Or when an upset makes you want to ugly cry into a pizza. And right now, Uber Eats has game day deals from Burger King, Buffalo Wild Wings, KFC, and hundreds more local favorites. So you can keep your eyes on the ball and your hands on a burger. Order now, only on Uber Eats. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
If Chelsea were behaving like that, the media would paint it and say, well, they're just being street smart, they're just being savvy. When Forest try those tactics, you know, we're football terrorists.
Welcome to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast, and in today's show we will have the Wheel of Misfortune, International REDscue, City Ground Super Subs, and the Tricky Tree Tracks of My Tears. As usual, Jeremy Davies will be joining us for his regular sketch. We'll have the latest Forest news this week from Jamie Martin, and we'll be hearing from the Reds fan who's documenting football stories from around the world. Welcome to Football Terrorists.
Football Terrorists.
I'm your host, Rich Ferraro, and I'm sitting here with a steaming cup of Colombia's finest. Yes, coffee. Well, I don't know what you were thinking. And I'm also not just joined by a cup of warm beverage, but also by several other people, including this guy, the Maradona of the Midlands. How you doing?
Hi, Rich. I'm fine. I like my coffee like I like my men. Black and strong.
Okay. And I'm just going to add in there that you've just come back from basically watching some of the children of Sherwood kick lumps out of each other this morning. How does that compare to watching Forest this season?
Oh, it's very similar, actually. We're very tight at the back. Won 5-2 again today against Ed Walton. Sitting pretty at the top of the league, so a bit better than Forest. So yeah, not bad. Following up last week's 9-1 victory. So it's all going very well.
And am I right in saying that Maradona Armando of the Midlands Jr. is proving to be a fine centre half?
He is. He's not bad, actually. Yes, he's all right. But bases his game on Joe Worrell.
Oh, well, that's all right. He'll do okay. Let's move on by saying that this is our 84th podcast of the season, and we've been included in that match reports on both the men's and the women's teams, our weekly Friday 5 roundups, and indeed our match previews. Today, we're recording on Saturday, the 22nd of March, and we are putting this on the air just as we are getting ready for the Forest women to take on Stoke in the National League Cup final at the Bescot Stadium. Come on, you Reds. Now, for you, listener, thank you as always for joining us. We're very grateful to have your company. And we want to move straight on and welcome our guests for this podcast. So just say hello and tell us what's been your highlight for Forest in the last month or so. Let's start off with you, Baz.
Everything. It's just been brilliant. The way we sort of bounce back from a little wobbly period, it's just, and after all those pundits and people in general were all saying, this is it, this is the end of their season, they're going to collapse now. It's been marvellous.
Okay. Thank you very much, Baz. Over to you, Tom Newton.
So my highlight of the month has got to be the win against Manchester City. It just reiterated that we're staying in the top 4 or 5 of the Premier League, and I would say we were relatively comfortable second half against Man City, against megastars they are. So yeah, that's my highlight of the month, the win against Manchester City.
Thank you very much. And greetings to you, Stephen Topless.
Hello. My highlight is the celebrations after the penalty shootout win over Ipswich, specifically Nuno. I think that's the most animated I've seen him since he's become Forest manager, and to see him sprinting on the pitch and jumping on the back of Olorena was a lovely moment. So that's my highlight.
I'm just going to throw in there that previous to that, I think my impression of Nuno being animated is, I think it was that famous match, wasn't it, where Neil Warnock went mental at him, where Wolves and Cardiff, and there the penalties and stoppage time and all of that kind of stuff, and then Warnock was getting rather testy, and Nuno did a look which I can only describe as prime angry Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, baldy man with beard, eyes bulging. So it's good to have a different image of Nuno in our heads. And we're definitely seeing the warm, cuddly side of Nuno now, aren't we, Maradona? And what a difference it makes when you're winning.
Yeah, well, yes, it does. I think he probably feels at home here. I think it looks like he's comfortable. He's enjoying living in Nottingham and his surroundings.
I'm not sure he does live in Nottingham, actually. I think he still lives sort of out black country way and goes horse riding.
Yeah, because he's got horses, hasn't he?
Oh, is he? Oh, dear. He's not that far away.
So that explains the whole thing with Ola Aina and the piggyback then.
Oh, okay. But anyway, yeah, I think he's enjoying it. Winning obviously helps. It takes the pressure off when everybody's telling you you're brilliant. That's obviously nice. But I can tell you that from personal experience. It's brilliant when everybody's telling you how great you are. So, yeah, he's enjoying it. I think the winning helps, and just a winning football match and the players doing what he's asking them to do. A group that's willing to learn and listen and develop and grow. I think that's probably the best thing a manager can have. I think we've seen plenty of toxic dressing rooms at Forest down the years where the complete opposite is true, where you can tell nobody's listening to anybody. The manager's lost the dressing room. So, yeah, it's a joy to watch him and everything that's going on. For me, that moment when Callum Hudson-Odoi scored against City, it was just such a guttural release of joy from everybody in the stadium, apart from the City fans, obviously. And it was just, that's going to live long in the memory.
Did you feel like you, John Hurt in Alien, was it like an alien bursting out of your chest when you released that emotion at Callum's goal?
No, I didn't feel like that, no.
Okay. Well, for me, my personal highlight of the last month, I'm going to say it, Nico Williams' penalty against Ipswich. What an absolute belter. And I know we've discussed this already and listened to our match reports and Friday Fives over the last few weeks, but every single one of those penalties, I was absolutely convinced that Forest were going to score. They were totally and indeed absolutely flawless. So really, really good stuff there. Tom, just to share with our listeners, just before we started recording, you also mentioned a highlight of the last few days, which is that you almost literally bumped into Nikola Milenkovic, and he's big and scary, isn't he?
I did. So after getting back to Nottingham last Saturday, I saw him at the petrol station in West Bridgford, Sainsbury's, and I'm 6'1", 6'2", but he's a lot bigger than me, and he walked past me with his hood up kind of thing. So he lives up to his chant.
But on the other hand, I'm also slightly disappointed he's quite softly spoken, because I'd expect him to have a really growly, deep voice, just to kind of match the persona. But anyway, gentle giant. I'm not going to complain too much about that. Anyway, so for today's first feature, I'm going to hand back to my good friend and podcasting colleague, the Maradona of the Midlands.
Hello, everyone. It's me, the Maradona of the Midlands, and this is the Wheel of Misfortune. Okay, I'm going to spin the wheel and it'll bring up a topic. Our panellists will then have 30 English seconds to share their views, and points will be awarded for the best responses. At the end of today's show, the panellists with the most points will get to choose a song of their choice as our closing music. Rich, spin the wheel!
Here we go. And there's just one topic for everyone, and we'll go around everyone, and that will include you, Maradona, at the end, if you choose to. Today's topic is Tommy Tuchel versus Morgan Gibbs-White. And our first contestant is Baz.
Obviously, as a Forest fan, I think Morgan Gibbs-White should be in the England squad. But the thing that gets me is Thomas Tuchel said he wants to play like an English Premier League side, which means being on the front foot, being aggressive, being pacey. And if there's an English midfielder that embodies that, then Morgan Gibbs-White surely is the one to have. He can do everything on the pitch from midfield, and he'd just be perfect at it. High energy, everything you need.
Absolutely sweet. Okay, coming over to you, Stephen Topless. So the morning after England's victory over Albania with no Gibbs-White, Tommy Tuchel versus Morgan Gibbs-White. Your 30 seconds start now.
Well, while I'm pleased that Gibbs-White didn't play because it means he'll be fresher for Forest and less chance of him picking up an injury, watching the game, England were flat, and it was crying out for somebody like Gibbs-White to come in and bring his energy and his creativity. And when you look at players like Foden who were on the pitch and not doing much, it's a little bit of an insult that Morgan's not there. I would love to see a midfield three of Declan Rice, Morgan Gibbs-White and Jude Bellingham.
Bang on. Okay, thank you very much to you, Stephen. Now, Tom, again, you have disclosed that you weren't actually watching the England match last night, so be interested to see what perspective you can offer on Tommy Tuchel versus Morgan Gibbs-White, starting now.
I simply didn't get it why he wasn't in the initial squad. Then obviously he was called up Sunday night after Cole Palmer pulled out, and then he won in the squad last night. Don't get it. You've got Curtis Jones, who's a bit part player at Liverpool. You've got Jordan Henderson, who's quite old now. Kyle Walker, quite old. We're meant to be like playing these players for the future, and they're playing, and Morgan doesn't get on the pitch. And I just hope that Tommy Tuchel hasn't planted a seed where basically he needs to leave Nottingham Forest to kind of finish.
No. That Maradona has spoken. We're just going to leave that hanging there. And Maradona, I would like to come to you on the subject of Tuchel versus Gibbs-White, starting now.
Well, it was an extremely disappointing start to the week when you saw the England squad. He picked a lot of yesterday's men, slow, really old people like Jordan Henderson, even Harry Kane. He gets lots of goals, but he's so slow. And Kyle Walker's legs have gone. Everyone can see that. So it smacks of short-termism of sort of the nth degree. I don't really understand it at all. It could have been very, very embarrassing for Morgan, but he pulled it around and he's in the squad now. He didn't say anything too rude to us.
Yeah, I think the main thing that I was thinking about, and thank you to you, Maradona, is that I saw a snippet where it was Morgan being asked, oh, yes, well, so were you upset when you weren't called up? Yes, I was upset and disappointed. And then saying, and how did you react when you got the call to call you up on the Sunday evening? And said, oh, yes, well, I got a call and it was Thomas Tuchel saying, I hope if you're not too upset with me, would you like to join us in the England squad tomorrow? And I said, yes, of course I would. And like, what do you expect him to say? Unless, of course, you're Ben White, in which case you pick and choose when you go in the squad, and yet you still get a recall or get favour with the manager. It does strike me as though your reputation with big clubs is making a big difference with Mr. Tuchel. Baz?
I just wanted to add to what Maradona said. It strikes it's short-termism. Well, of course it's short-termism. He's a short-term manager. He's only been appointed for 18 months. He don't care about the future. So that's the way it's going to be.
But do you really think that Jordan Henderson is going to be able to offer something, Baz, at the World Cup in 18 months' time when he's barely even kicking a ball and he's 34 years old and was never pacey and strong in the first place?
No, but I presume he's there for his personality.
Tom?
Yeah, because I didn't finish what I was going to say.
Sneaky. We might end up deducting points for this one.
I just hope that Tommy Tuchel hasn't planted a seed where, even though Morgan Gibbs-White's playing for a side what's in the top three of the Premier League, that he might have to leave Nottingham Forest to go to the so-called Sky Six to obviously get international recognition. Because, like you just mentioned, Jordan Henderson, he's only started 2 games in the last 9 or something for Ajax in effectively a Farmers League, and I just think it's a bit of a disgrace, really, that he's been obviously not picked for squads and everything. I just think they're messing him around a bit.
Stephen?
Well, I'm hoping that we can get Champions League football and Morgan will then be able to play at that level, because there's no higher level at club level than Champions League, and that will then put it back on Thomas Tuchel. He'll be playing in the best competition possible. And
I would say that's probably worked in Ezri Konsa's favour, hasn't it? So just on the topic of, Big Six teams, obviously Ebery Eze and Mark Gahey are still in the squad, but, Gahey's been dropped. And Tom, do you think that is maybe because he wanted to go for somebody who's with a so-called big club?
Potentially. I just think, like Baz has mentioned, short-termism, isn't it? He's got 18 months and basically his remit is to win the World Cup and get us over the line. I just think players like Jordan Henderson shouldn't be in the squad. Kyle Walker, we know his legs have gone. And will these players be here in 18 months? I'm going to say no.
And also, we said this, and the snippet has gone out on social media, on our socials, which you can access at 1865.football. But we were discussing the other day that it doesn't make sense to not select Gibbs White when you are selecting the likes of Rodgers and Eze ahead of him, because Gibbs White can do a number of jobs. He can play as a 10, he can play wide, he can play as an 8. He could probably even play as a 6 alongside Rice if they needed him to. And it just doesn't make sense to me. But the other thing that I heard, and this is entirely unsubstantiated, but I think I read a journalist or someone in the know saying on social media that apparently Callum Hudson-Odoi isn't going to get selected under Tuchel, because even though Tuchel did select him at Chelsea, he doesn't like his attitude, despite the fact he's battled back from this Achilles injury and is playing the best football of his career. So if that's the case, then the question would be, would a Hudson-Odoi, would a Gibbs White want to play under Tuchel anyway? But again, you don't want to end up being like Ben White or Thibaut Courtois, do you? So,
well, that's the thing. It's like attitude. Then you got Ben White dipping in and out when he wants to, kind of thing. And what about his attitude?
I think Ben White should be rechristened Ben Orange anyway. So.
Yeah. And Hudson-Odoi, he's still very young. He was young when Tuchel managed him at Chelsea. He's maturing as a player. I think he's probably maturing as a person as well over the last couple of years.
This is what we've seen with Morgan, isn't it? Like, he didn't get a look in under Nuno at Wolves because he was immature. He broke COVID rules. He was, big-headed. And he's become much more of a team player. He probably is still big-headed and big ego, because a lot of the best players are, especially if you've got a number 9 or 10 on your back. But he's playing the team game, and Hudson-Odoi is now playing the team game. So that's where I see it anyway.
Another thing, Jared Bowen is like playing for West Ham. They've been struggling until Potter's gone in, and he still gets in the squad. But Hudson-Odoi has been doing it consistently and scoring goals against Man City and Liverpool, and don't get picked. So it's just strange in my eyes.
Well, I mean, I'm certainly not going to argue against Bowen. He's a player I quite like, but I do appreciate the point you're making. Let's park that there for now, though, and let's move on to our next feature. This is a new game called International REDscue, and once again, this is being led by the Maradona of the Midlands. So over to you.
Thank you. I hope this goes well. I'm hoping to get the mastermind gig after this. Anyway,
you can't do any worse than Amal Rajan. I said it.
Whoa. Well, get back in the knife drawer. Anyway,
stealing a living, just saying it.
In this game, each contestant is given the names of 3 Forest players, and they have to choose which one has the most international caps. Bonus points will be awarded if they know how many caps and goals they have for their chosen countries. So, I'm going to start off with Tom Newton on the far left of my screen. And Tom, your nation is Wales. It is a nation. No, don't say that, Tom. It is a real nation. So, the 3 players...
Principality, nation, just throwing it out there.
Yeah. Your 3 players are Chris the Gunter.
Easy for you to say.
Robbie Earnshaw. He is a red. I'll put that in there as a little clue for you. And your friend of mine and friend of the show, David Phillips. Now, Tom, which one of these players has the most international caps?
I am going to go with. I'm going to go with Chris Gunter.
Oh, very good, Tom. Very good. Can you guess how many international caps he might have?
I've heard this. I reckon it's 110 caps he's got for Wales.
So close. 109 international caps.
Oh, one out.
I think Tom deserves the points there.
Yeah, definitely. Tom, we're going to make up for the points that you were deducted for keeping on going after your 30 seconds in the previous round. So well done on that one. Yeah, you've that one's gone to VAR and you've got the points.
Okay. Our next contestant, Baz, the self-proclaimed baddest man on the planet. Now, Baz, for you, we are going over the border to Scotland. And there we find ourselves in the company of Scott Gemmell, his lovely father, Archie Gemmell, and some say the greatest Warriors player of all time, John Robertson. Now, this is. I'll give you a clue. This is a bit tighter than Tom's question. Who out of those three stalwart Scots has the most caps?
Oh, it's a tricky one, that. I'd say Archie Gemmell.
Oh, there's no getting past you, Baz. Absolutely right. Archie Gemmell is the correct answer. Want to hazard a guess how many caps he got?
Probably more than Chris Gunter got, so 150?
No, I reckon I'm going for like 45 or something. There were far fewer international games.
That's true, actually. Yeah, that's true.
Right, yeah, not too bad. Bonus points.
I've said it now.
There. He got 43 international caps.
Yeah. How many did Scott get?
26.
And Robbo?
Only 28.
And actually, for the sake of argument, the Welsh players, Robbie Earnshaw and David Phillips.
Quite similar. 59 for Robbie Earnshaw and 62 for Demon Dave Phillips. But he was busy running that chain of estate agents down south at the same time. So he had other things to do as well.
And also, did we get how many international goals was little Robbie Earnshaw?
I didn't look at that. I didn't read the script before.
This is not the first time we've had a script malfunction with Maradona. I'm just going to point that out, listener.
Oh, you are a bloody disgrace!
I know Chris Gunter never scored for Wales.
Okay, well.
You're not getting any more points for that.
Maybe I imagined it then.
And of course, let's also point out that Archie Gemmell has scored the greatest goal in Scottish football history, and it'll be amazing if there's ever another goal to overtake it.
And we'll get it now from Gemmell. Gemmell could go all the way, and he's out here. Yes! Beautiful goal, Archie Gemmell!
John Robertson scored against England in the 81. Remember the home nation?
I've already told you, you're not getting any more bonus points.
Stop showing off, Tom. Okay, now, next, we go over to your friend of mine, the best in the business, Stephen Topless. There he is with his gleaming smile. His mother will be so proud of him if she could see him now. Okay, Stephen, your country is Nigeria. And I'm going to give you three of the best Nigerians ever to play football. First of all, Emmanuel Dennis. Second of all, Ola Aina. And thirdly, Taiwo Awoniyi. Now, out of those three, Eagles, I believe they are in Nigeria, they're called.
They're Super Eagles, aren't they?
Super Eagles, right. Which one of those Super Eagles has soared the highest with the most number of caps?
I think it's Ola Aina.
Bang on. This is why we're the best podcast in the business, where everyone's got their answers totally correct. It is Ola Aina. And how many caps, Stephen? Do you know?
I'm going to say 45.
Oh, 1 out. It was 44 international caps. Stephen, you are a genius. Just to finish off the quiz, Taiwo, I was surprised, only got 10 so far. Emmanuel Dennis, Only 8. We probably should have taken that as a clue before we signed him. So
they've got Osimhen though, haven't they, as their main striker? So Taiwo's second middle very much.
I've heard he might be pitching up at Forest next season. You don't know.
Yakubu's still playing and trying to fudge his real age, and Obafemi Martins.
I'd forgotten it existed, so I don't know. The last Nigerian player I can remember is Daniel Amakachi before this lot.
I thought you were going to go for Sunday Elise.
So, that whole group, Finidi George, Sunday
JJ Okocha, so good they named him twice.
Yeah, definitely.
That's my era.
And once again, you're giving yourself away there, Maradona.
The real question is, do they sell Ribena in Nigeria?
You know what? I saw a video of Ola doing a thing with another Nigerian player, and this time, rather than a carton of Bina, he was chugging from a bottle of Bina.
Undiluted.
Did you see him this week?
No. Why did the Derby fan stare at the bottle of squash? Because on the side it said concentrate.
He had to share a bed with Alex Iwobi this week, didn't he? Big double bed for them to share.
It was king size, and yeah. I think I got the impression from the video that Ola was quite looking forward to it, more so than Alex was anyway.
Top and tail.
Yeah. I mean, if nothing else, you'd need to, just because of the size of their respective hair. So, okay. Well done to all of our panelists. Looking at the leaderboard at the moment, in the lead, we have got Mr. Stephen Topless, but it's very, very tight because Baz is in second place. And Tom, with that extra bonus point, has pulled level in third position. And Maradona is not far behind, but he can't play in the games that, you can't enter if you're an employee of 1865 and all that kind of gubbins. So it's still all to play for. And still to come, we've got a special interview with a Reds fan who's documenting football and sport all around the world. We've got the latest news from Jamie Martin, and we've got another game for our panellists before our winning contestant gets to play their Tricky Tree Tracks of Their Tears. But first, it's time for this.
The 1865 Sketch by Jeremy Davies. One aspect of Nottingham Forest's long-awaited return to the top flight of English football that has complicated matters has been what to do about my fantasy league team. For years, my remarkably consistent level of mediocrity in fantasy football may have reflected the performances of the club I supported, but were not directly affected by them. My knack for selecting players just before they picked up a serious injury, plunging strikers into an acute goal drought, or picking playmakers who always played the pass before the assist, take a bow, Martin Odegaard, never impacted Forest's hapless attempt to get back to where they belonged. If they had, we'd probably have spent a lot longer in League One. Such is the obsession with stats at Fantasy Premier League HQ, it can't be long before they start awarding points for the pre-assist, which begs the inevitable question of where do you stop? Or perhaps that should be, where do you start? To which the logical conclusion is to award points to the player who takes the kick-off, or even the one who wins the toss. Since Forest were promoted to the Premier League, the dilemma of picking players from your own team has reared its ugly head, becoming more acute this season with the club doing so well, particularly the defence. I play old-fashioned fantasy football league, the version that involves an auction at the start of the season, during which managers bid for different players, so there's none of this nonsense where Mo Salah plays for everyone every week. No wonder he's been looking a bit tired recently. You also don't get points for anything except clean sheets, goals and assists, whereas in the overhyped Fantasy Premier League game, players literally get 2 points just for turning up. I can almost hear Cloughie turning in his grave. Another thing that might have Brian Clough turning in his grave is the proper football man's least favourite stat, expected goals. I confess to being somewhat ignorant when it comes to XG myself, but I was surprised when doing a bit of light background research on theanalyst.com to read that it is now a regular feature on BBC's Match of the Day, where I've certainly never heard it mentioned by the hardened ex-pros. I don't really understand their hostility to it, as it's just the modern-day successor to the old-fashioned position of maximum opportunity idea, which dominated English football before 1992, when the formation of the Premier League presented the position of maximum opportunity to Rupert Murdoch. One other thing I discovered in my research was that penalties are always assigned a constant XG value of 0.79, which doesn't sound very scientific. Although, as noted science fan Matt Letitia might agree, that could be different if friend of the pod Mark Crossley was still playing. I don't know if Thomas Tuchel plays Fantasy Premier League, though he probably wouldn't fancy it, as you can't select Jordan Henderson. Speaking of the stars of Euro 2020, or was it Euro 2021, I'd completely forgotten that Calvin Phillips was playing for Ipswich now, until our game at Portman Road last Sunday. Presumably Tuchel had forgotten as well, or he would have selected him for the England squad too, just to reinforce the Euro 2020 reunion vibe. Rumour has it he's been asking around for the number of that guy who shoved the firework up his arse. It's great to see Morgan Gibbs-White belatedly added to the squad. He must be as frustrating for an FFL league manager as he is thrilling to an IRL one. Since he does everything everywhere all at once, he probably doesn't get as many points as he might do if he focused solely on goals and assists. But, as most people outside of the USA know, football isn't only about statistics. That attitude tells you all you need to know about why I'm bottom of the fantasy league. I just hope, for the sake of the nation, that unlike me, Thomas Tuchel doesn't end up regretting the fact that he didn't select enough Nottingham Forest players.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place for changes big and small. Loud or quiet, find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
1865.
This is 1865. Take it to a podcast plus partners, sports social network and set up. You set up to protect your team on match days. You can gain rewards such as food, booze, and the merch. You can stay in touch with fellow Reds fans. Use golden ticket code at Sixer, and you can skip the waiting list. Find the link at 1865 football, and that's where you can follow us on Threads, Insta, TikTok, Twitter, and more.
Welcome back to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast, and thank you once again to FanHub for sponsoring our podcasts. Remember, you can download the app and use the code 186-ERG to skip the waiting list and get rewards. As always, thank you to Sports Social as well for hosting our podcast and being generally good supporters. And speaking of good supporters, we've got a special guest today. So if you're on social media, on Twitter or on YouTube, then you may have seen an account called Ray Mundo Futbol. And this guy is somebody who is a Forest supporter, but also spends a lot of time traveling around, making films and talking about football. So welcome to 1865, Ray Mundo.
Thank you very much, Rich. How are you today then?
Yeah, all good, thank you. And really pleased that we've been able to get you on. It's something that I contacted you a couple of weeks ago, but I've been thinking about getting you on for ages because every so often you do get in touch with us and say, oh, I've just done another video, or can you share this? And generally we're quite happy to, because you're all about the storytelling, really, aren't you?
Well, that's it. I think it's important for me, it's important to reach out and find people who are interested in the topics on which I'm making these videos and podcasts. That's just common sense to me. So yeah, sort of unashamedly, I do reach out a lot to people and sort of say, you know, if you're up for it, could you just do a retweet? And appreciate people's kindness in that respect, because I know that everyone's got their own stuff as well. But yeah, it's just an enjoyable hobby really at the moment. I just love football and I'm just making videos and podcasts, seeing where it takes me. The great thing is I can already say for sure that it's put me in touch with loads of cool people, including especially, you know, podcasters, YouTubers, authors, as well as people inside football clubs. So you just can't really go wrong, really. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, and one of the great things about football is obviously the community side of it, finding your tribe and all of that. And with that in mind, obviously, we know you're a Forest fan and you've done loads of videos about Forest matches. I think recently you've done stuff which is kind of focusing upon the Ipswich penalty shootout. You did some nice bits there. Mm-hmm. You did interviews with Mark Dennison, our friend. You've also done some stuff with other fans, and you've also had a recent one when we found out that Stuart Pearce had taken ill, interviewing 5 fans where they get to share their memories. So it sounds to me like it started off with Forest, but you've really expanded and gotten much wider than that, haven't you?
Well, I think the love of football started off with Forest, but the actual videos themselves, my first few were actually in different countries. But ultimately, what it comes down to is Forest is my team, and I do get a special buzz from making videos about Forest, especially that Man City match. Speaking to someone like Mark Dennison, that was pretty special because I love BBC Radio Nottingham, and I love the kind of the stadium announcer, the concept of stadium announcers. I love that he's got such a cool job, and it's just great to find out about it from someone. Because let's face it, I'm relatively young compared to a lot of people. That some people have lived the Forest dream for years and years and years, and I just want to tap into that a little bit and just learn as I go, really, especially about the Brian Clough days and all that.
Yeah, and we'll come back to that in a little while. But yeah, as you've mentioned, you've done lots of traveling, and when you go traveling, you're going to see different teams and visiting different grounds and engaging with different fans. So tell us about some of the more exciting places you've been to.
For me, really, what excites me the most about football matches and football fans is the ones who sing even when they're not winning. That's what I really love about football. I think it's that dedication, isn't it? It's almost like a religion, and you just get those occasions where it happens at Forest as well. You know, when we played against Newcastle in the League Cup at the start of the season and they won on penalties, I think it was, and you know, I stayed behind. I always like to stay behind and see what happens. And the fans celebrating with the players was just spectacular. Just you can't help but stand and watch. If you're some kind of mature adult, you got to stand and applaud the bond between fans and players, especially when they travel halfway across the country for it. And so for me, that's what I love when I go to places like Italy, especially Greece. I saw the same. You know, some of these countries, they have special fan bases which just do not stop singing, win, lose or draw. And I just admire that so much.
Yeah, and one of the things you've also kind of done in the last few months is you've talked about maybe some of the clubs in England where they've fallen on harder times. So most notably Reading and Yeovil. Of course, Forest fans will have mixed memories of Yeovil, but of course they've really struggled in the last few years compared to that heyday about sort of just under 20 years ago. And of course, Reading are in deep trouble. And I'm guessing that the fans here are really willing to talk because they want to share the plight that their clubs are in and what it means for them as fans.
That's it. Yeah. And I mean, I think that's one of the great things about me starting from grassroots. Like, so for example, if by some strange like twist of destiny, I'd gone straight in there on Football Focus, for example, and I'd have suggested, oh, you know, how about we just chat to this Reading fan about this? They'd probably turn around and said, well, no, because it's not going to draw the people in. But I don't have that issue because it's just me deciding. So it's just me reaching out to people, and really the key prerequisite is, are they passionate about their topic? That's the main thing. So it could be the tea lady, going back to the old Alex Ferguson thing. You take care of the tea lady as well as the star player. You could get in touch with me and say, I'm the tea lady at Ilkeston Town, and I'd be up for a podcast because that's what it's all about. And so when I've been in touch with this Reading fan and that Yeovil fan, and they're putting out tweets about saving their club and stuff. For me, it was just a no-brainer. Like they care. If they care about that, then I want to hear about it, and that's what it all comes down to. And it is a touching story, really, when you think about it. The idea of your club being potentially just a week or less away from just disappearing off the map as a business and as an organisation is pretty. If you stop and think about it, it's pretty rough, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And of course, it's not just about, everyone always thinks about football in terms of the players, but as you mentioned, even small football clubs employ vast numbers of people in the local economy and contribute massively to their local communities. And no one wants to see a football club go out of business, particularly as the people who there's certain people who always seem to get, and this is not just in football, certain people who always seem to come out of it smiling, and other people who suffer greatly. Let's talk a little bit about you and Forest then. So when was your first match?
Funnily enough, I think I mentioned it yesterday to someone else. I actually think it was Des Walker's testimonial, and I went. My big brother took me along. I remember it pretty clearly, to be fair.
Yeah, and of course, Des, absolute legend. So, Des, if you're listening to this, we'd love to get you on the pod. And I mean, obviously, as Forest supporters, we've lived more downs than ups, points deductions, overspending, all the kinds of controversies, the VAR tweet, and so on. But I mean, as far as I'm concerned, and I started watching Forest in about late 80s, early 90s. And I've seen great times, I've seen terrible times. And actually the last 2-3 years have been such a roller coaster that I wouldn't swap them for anything, even with the downtimes.
That's it. And you know what? I've mentioned it a few times in the last few months. I go back to Marinakis. I truly believe that Marinakis is the main driving force behind it, obviously financially. But on top of that, I just think ideologically, he's a proper football guy. And I don't know if anyone has or hasn't watched the Sky Sports interview that they did. I think it was Rob Dorset went out to Piraeus in Athens and went to the Olympiacos HQ and interviewed Marinakis for about half an hour. And it was a proper football interview. Loved it. I watched it twice. Might watch it again today actually, because it's just beautiful. He is a proper footballing guy, and he loves his club primarily, Olympiacos, but he was enchanted himself by the story that we made in 1979, 1980, obviously, and that's why he's chosen to take on Forest, and now we're potentially on the verge of going for. I think it was Sao Paulo that I mentioned that I read. Sorry, we've already got the club in Portugal, Rio Ave, but this is a sort of a group of football clubs motivated not just by a group of international investors. This is one man and his love of football. And I don't think you see that anywhere else, really. But I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't really think you see that anywhere else with any of these other Manchester City groups or anything like that. This is one man and his love of football, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's hard to argue with that. And the other thing that I would say there is that, Marinakis, probably by his own admission, he's made mistakes where he's kind of realised that the English football is very different to what he was used to with running a Greek football club. But he's learned from those mistakes, and he's using that to kind of build his empire. So yeah, the downs as well as the ups, but it's not just what happens; it's how you come back out of it, isn't it? So Ray, thank you very much for joining us. If people want to find your videos and your podcasts, how can they do so?
Yeah, tune into Ray Mundo Futbol, the podcast. So it's Ray Mundo Futbol. It's just like that on Spotify and Apple and Amazon. The YouTube channel, if you just type in Ray Mundo 632, then that's really the best way to find me on there. And as I say, just you're supporting an up and coming guy, and I am enjoying what I'm doing, and hopefully the passion shows through. And it's all about entertaining other people, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, well, all the best to you. We'll put your links in the show notes. So if anyone's listening to that and they wanted to find out how to get to your stuff, they'll all be in there. And now it's back to the studio.
1865.
Hi, this is Jamie Martin with this week's Forest Stories from the 1865 news desk. Now the headline to this week's news: Evangelos Marinakis has pushed forward with his plans for Brazil. In some breakthrough news, Sao Paulo President Julio Casares has initially announced Evangelos Marinakis' investment in the club. The investment mentioned would be in the youth development system at the club, with the Greek billionaire said to be acquiring 25% of the system's revenue, as well as providing a pathway for Brazilian talent in his clubs Nottingham Forest, Olympiacos and Rio Ave. Reports say the investment is worth around $100 million, and Mr. Marinakis has met with Casares in person to negotiate and discuss the investment. Forest women have topped their division as they aim for promotion. It's more good news for Forest women's team as they win yet again to top the Women's Northern Premier Division. Not only did the Reds have a successful weekend, scoring twice and bagging a clean sheet, they also beat rivals Derby County at the City Ground, a superb win and a brilliant way to get another step forward in their bid for promotion. The Reds will face Stoke City in the WNL final next up. Ramon Sosa has fueled speculation over future with cryptic post. A turbulent week for Forest Paraguayan winger as a cryptic Instagram post causes questions. Just minutes before the game against Ipswich, for which Sosa was not in the squad nor travelled to, the winger posted a message on his Instagram story. With the Paraguayan national team selection, including himself, he reshared with the message, "My only motivation," causing questions around his future at Forest. He's been out of the squad for a number of games now and could be headed for an exit in the summer. The final piece of news this week, Forest have been linked with an out-of-favour AC Milan defender. New reports have linked Forest with English defender Fikayo Tomori ahead of a potential summer move. While not overlooked, Tomori's situation at Milan has been under question for a while, in particular last summer where his move to Tottenham failed as he is said to have rejected a move to London. Tomori played with both Aina and Hudson-Odoi at the Cobham Academy, Chelsea, with the Forest duo potentially being handy for a move should it come to fruition. Forest in the last few hours also, as of the time of recording, have been linked with Sporting Lisbon's Victor Gyökeres, potentially for a summer move, but it does seem that would be a little bit outlandish. That is, though, the latest from the 1865 News Desk. I'm Jamie Martin. Be sure to catch up with me on Twitter /X as it is now known via @I'mJamieMartin. Updates on Nottingham Forest related news throughout the week. Wishing you a good week and I'll see you next week. See you soon. Goodbye.
1865.
Thanks a lot to Jeremy, Ray and Jamie. You're listening to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast, with Rich Ferraro and me, the Maradona of the Midlands. Now it's time for another game for our panellists. We think about some of our City Ground super subs. In this game, each contestant will be given the names of 2 Forest players who have made a contribution as super subs. We want you to guess which of the two players made the most sub appearances in that season. And we'll award bonus points if you can tell us who scored the most goals. So let's go in reverse order this time. I'll go over to Stephen Topless. Stephen, if you are ready, I'm going to give you the 94-95 season, the season where Forest finished 3rd in the Premier League. And our 2 subs that season, our most used subs were Jason Lee and Paul McGregor. Can you tell me which one of those made the most appearances?
Jason Lee.
Jason Lee is correct. He made 19 appearances versus Super Paul McGregor's 11. Now, can you tell me who scored the most goals?
I think Jason Lee again.
He did. It was Jason Lee. He's got a total of 3 goals that season. Which
and Baz?
Oh, I thought. Oh, was it next season that he scored 12?
It was after Big Stan left. He stepped up and filled his ample boots and scored a lot of goals. Okay, and Super Paul McGregor only got the 1 goal that season, but if I remember correctly, it was the bicycle kick at Hillsborough. Was that him? I can't remember now. But
I think that was later on, wasn't it?
Later on, okay. Yeah. I don't know. Oh.
McGregor did score at West Ham in 94-95.
Oh, there you
coming
go.
off the bench.
Stato there for us. Rescuing us once again. Right, Baz, I'm gonna make this era appropriate. I'm gonna take you all the way back
to 1947,
1990, 91, when you probably had purple hair, and our 2 star subs that season were young Darren Wassell and Phil, Battlestar Galactica, Starbuck. So, which one of those made the most sub appearances?
Starbuck, I reckon.
It was Starbuck.
Oh,
yeah, he got 15 appearances from the bench that season, which surprising.
Really? I don't remember him playing that much.
I don't remember playing that much either, but that's what
main thing I remember
says. If that's what, no, it wasn't Wikipedia actually. Who was it? I can't remember now. It was Was it the City Ground website? Is that a good website? I think that's the one, the City Ground website. Lots of stats.
Don't give away your secrets, Maradona.
Anyway, no, we should give them credit. They've done a tremendous job on that website. They've got so many stats on it. I don't know how they have the time or the patience to do it, but they've done it, and they've done a tremendous job.
It takes all sorts to make a world, doesn't it? And the main thing that I remember about Phil Starbuck wasn't his exploits on the pitch, but when he came into our school assembly to tell us about being an evangelical Christian.
Yes, I remember that day as well. It was a surprise, shall we say? but yeah,
You'd have thought with a name like Starbuck, he'd be more into science than religion, but there you go.
It's each their own.
Maybe more into coffee than science. I don't know.
Yeah. So, Baz, do you want to have a hazard, a guess at who scored the most goals?
Those two would be Starbuck again, I'd have thought. Probably two.
No, I was tricking you. Neither of them scored a single goal that season. Okay, right. So now for young Thomas, we'll bring it right back to the 2020s. We'll get in his time machine, in his DeLorean, bring him back to the promotion season. Remember Steve Cooper? He was our manager, and he got us promoted. And the two players he chose most often to come off the sub bench that season were Alex Myton and Joe Lolly. Now, who, Tom, made the most appearances?
I'm going to go Joe Lolly.
Oh, you hit the post. It was Alex Myton with 21 appearances against 19. And a significant contribution.
Coops wasn't the biggest fan of Lolly, was he?
He wasn't. No. I went off him when I saw him chucking that frying pan over his house. I thought that was very dangerous. I didn't like that either.
That's the most unexpected sentence of this podcast so far.
Well, that was reckless, in my opinion. Lockdown or no lockdown. Anyway,
he's chucked a frying pan over a house. What have you done?
Tom's not finding this amusing at all. Why are you laughing, Tom? This is gold.
Love you, Lolly.
Okay, Tom, who out of the two, who got the most goals that season?
I've got a funny feeling that neither of them scored that season. I can't remember them. Tell a lie. I'm going to go Joe Lolly. I think he scored at Huddersfield.
Not according to my knowledge. He got 0 goals, and Alex Myton got 1 goal.
Myton scored the goal in the 5-1 demolition of Swansea.
Swansea? Was it? I don't know. I've got it in my head as Barnsley. But
Stupidest away display ever by a team going to the City Ground that season. It was pathetic.
The genius of Russell Martin, you mean?
I just didn't get it. Remember when they were the passed the ball back to the goalkeeper, the goalkeeper just stood there, and it's then Swansea fans were coming out at the end of the game saying, "Oh, we still prefer Russell Martin's football." You've just been absolutely smashed 5-1, and what was it? Was it 9-2 on aggregate that season against Swansea? But they still reckon Russell Martin's total football was better.
Well, I mean, one of my friends who's a Southampton fan said at least under Martin there was some kind of a plan, whereas under Juric it's just hit it and hope. It's Martin has some kind of hex on fans. I don't know if it's because he's a good-looking man with a beard. I don't know, but
he's going out with the Lucy Pinder at the moment, isn't he? So
is he?
Page 3 stunner.
Yeah,
you will know about that sort of thing reading the Guardian, Rich.
Where's that come from?
Nuts magazine in my youth.
It's a working man's game.
Game's gone.
Go back to Oxbridge.
Listener, I'd like to make it clear. Yeah, I'd like to make it clear that I the only time I've been to Oxford or Cambridge was not to go to university.
Manor Ground,
yeah.
To watch Andreas Lentis score a goal.
That shack.
I prefer the Manor Ground in Ilkeston.
Well, anyway, as much as I'm loving the talk of all these manor grounds around the country,
I wasn't expecting to have page 3 stunners involved in this podcast either.
we've come to the end of the quiz. Rich, what are the scores?
Well, it's time to announce the winners, and the scores are that today's third place contestant is Tom Newton. It's all very, very close. And Tom has got points. And in second place, points, is Baz, which means that this month's winner is Mr. Stephen Topless. Congratulations to you, Topo, and your reward is that you get to choose your Tricky Tree Tracks of Your Tears. This can be a song that reminds you of a big moment, whether good or bad, when you've been watching Forest, supporting Forest, at the City Ground, at home, sitting in your bedroom, crying softly into your pillow, whatever it might be. Which song would you like to choose?
I'm going to go for a very recent one, and it was played at full time after the win over Man City. Status Quo, Rocking All Over the World.
Yeah, a recent hit there.
A recent memory, but the hit is anything but. Yeah.
Okay, let's see what we can manage there. And so this just leaves me to say a big thank you to our contestants, to Stephen, to Baz, and to Tom. Thank you also to Jeremy for the sketch, Ray for sharing his experiences of documenting things around the world and at the City Ground, and Jamie with bringing us the Forest News Roundup. And of course, thank you, Maradona, for joining us, and we'll be back later on in the week with our Friday 5 Roundup, a preview of the FA Cup match away to Brighton, and we will of course bring you an update on the women's team who are playing. Let's just remind you, at the time of recording, we're just 2.5 hours away from the kickoff of the National League Cup final against the glamorous opponent Stoke in the even more glamorous surroundings of the Bescott Stadium. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and come on you Reds!
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Buying a new mattress sounds great. Paying for it? Debatable. Hear us out. At Mattress Warehouse, we offer 0% interest financing over 2, 3, 4, or 5 years. And we guarantee you'll pay the lowest price available, and we'll keep that promise for a full year after purchase. Go ahead and buy that mattress of your dreams. Mattress Warehouse has you covered. So where would you look to find the perfect mattress? In a little mattress store or Mattress Warehouse? Visit mattresswarehouse.com.